Welcome again, students, to another exciting math class on EduTech X. Oh, as always, I'm excited to be in this class. Remember, in the previous lesson, we discussed so many things, right? So this means that in this lesson too, there are so many things in store for you. So just follow us through. We are still discussing sets. We are not done. Then that's what we discussed, or that's the same topic we discussed in the previous lesson, which is the addition and subtraction of sets. But in today's class, we are on the subtopic multiplication of sets. Multiplication of sets. So the question is, if you have sets, how do you multiply them? I know, just to go back a little bit, you remember how we discussed addition and subtraction of sets in our previous lesson. But today's lesson is totally going to focus on the multiplication of sets. So maybe you have an expression like the one we are expressing on the board at the moment. Square root of A multiplied by square root of B. How do you solve such a question? Or you have another expression or multiplication expression like S square root of A multiplied by D square root of B. If you have an expression like this one too, how do you solve it? Or the expression square root of AB multiplied by square root of ZX. How do you solve this one as well? If you notice, all of them involve multiplication. So just like always, follow me through this lesson and you will be able to know how to do that. What we have on the board are just variables that we are using to express what we want to talk about. Now let's take a look at numbers. Let's work with numbers because math is all about numbers. So we have the example, say for instance, square root of 2 multiplied by square root of 3. Then another example, 3 square root of 2 multiplied by 4 square root of 3. Then square root of 27 multiplied by square root of 32. So with all the expressions that we have on the board, you realize that they are quite different. So how do you solve each and every one of those questions whenever you meet them in your examination or in the course of your schooling? So now relax. We are going to take them one by one and then study how to solve them. So in the previous lesson, when we were talking about addition and subtraction, we said that you can only add or subtract sets which have the same number under the equal to sign, right? But that's not the same case when it comes to multiplication of sets. With multiplication of sets, it's quite different. Here, whether the numbers under the square root sign are the same or whether they are not the same, you can multiply them. The key word here is multiply. Again, we are trying to say with multiplication of sets, if the numbers under the square root sign are the same or they are not the same, you still can multiply them. So you realize that the addition and subtraction of sets is quite different from multiplication of sets. So now let's go back to multiplication of sets. So for example, we have square root of 2 multiplied by square root of 3. You realize that obviously the numbers 2 and 3 are not the same, but in multiplication of sets, you can multiply them. So what would our answer be? So it means that we can multiply 2 by 3 and our answer will be 6. So we will end up having the answer to be square root of 6. So this is actually how to solve it. Let's take a look at another form of multiplication of sets. So with this example, we have square root of 5 multiplied by square root of 3. Now, still, the numbers are not the same. But you remember that for multiplication, what do? We can multiply them whether they are the same or whether they are not the same. So try doing something. Can you multiply square root of 5 by square root of 3? Yes, you can. So when you actually multiply it, the answer will be, yes, square root of 15. So we have our answer to be square root of 15. So this is actually the proper way of solving a question like that. Now let's take a look at another form of this question. 3 square root of 5 multiplied by 4 square root of 2. How do we do a multiplication like this, or how do we work on a multiplication like this? So let's take our time. The number outside the square root sign, 3. Remember that we said in our previous lesson, the numbers outside the square root sign, we mostly can isolate them and then multiply. So in this particular one too, we do the same thing. We pick the numbers outside the square root sign, then we multiply them. So for instance, we have 3 and 4 both outside the square root sign. So we isolate them and multiply them. So as you can see, we have 3 multiplied by 4. So when you do this, are we done with the question? Is that our final answer? No. Remember that just in this class, we said that you can multiply numbers under the square root sign which are not the same. So we have square root of 5 and square root of 2, and we can multiply them. So we are actually going to multiply them. I'll repeat that again. For multiplication, it is possible to multiply sets which are not the same. So for instance, square root of 5 and square root of 2 can be multiplied. So we multiply them, as you can see on the board, square root of 5 multiplied by 2. So you see that the numbers outside the square root sign, we multiply them. Then after that, the numbers inside the square root sign as well, we multiply them. So that is how to solve a question of this form. So we are going to have our answer here to be, yes, 3 multiplied by 4 being 12. And 5 multiplied by 2 being 10. So we are going to have 12 square root of 10. So for multiplication, it doesn't really matter if the numbers under the square root sign are the same or not. All we are saying is it is possible to multiply them. Then the numbers outside the square root sign too, you will multiply them. So you've seen how we can multiply sets of this form as well. Now let's look at another form of sets and how we can multiply them. So we are having an example of the form square root of 32 multiplied by square root of 27. Maybe when you are given this example, you would ask, how can we solve this? But remember, in previous lessons, we've said that whenever you are given a complex set, what do? Yes, that's a perfect answer. You simplify them first. That is right. So you have square root of 32, square root of 27, which are complex sets. So we simplify them, or we will simplify them before continuing whatever we want to do. And you remember that we said that in simplifying such sets, what we do is we look for a number which is a perfect square and multiply it by another number to get that number we are talking about. So for instance, 32, we can have 16, which is a perfect square, multiplied by 2, which will give us the answer or that number. Then for the other number, 27, another perfect square. So which other perfect square can be multiplied to get 27? 9. So 9 multiplied by 3, and then we have 27. So 9, which is a perfect square, multiplied by 3 is going to give us 27. So that is what we are going to use. So always remember that you need to have a perfect square among those two numbers you are multiplying. All right. Now, just like we do always, we will separate each individual term. So we are going to have square root of 16 multiplied by square root of 2 multiplied by square root of 9 multiplied by square root of 3. This makes solving the question much easier. 16 is a perfect square, so square root of 16 is going to obviously give us 4 multiplied by square root of 2. Then we move to the other terms. Square root of 9 is a perfect, or 9 is a perfect square. So square root of 9, and then the answer is going to be 3. So 4 square root of 2 will be multiplied by 3. And then obviously we know square root of 3 will be maintained as well, since 3 is not a perfect square. So now we can focus on our multiplication. So we further simplifying it, 4 square root of 2 multiplied by 3 square root of 3. Now we remember what exactly we've talked about in this lesson. First, we look at the numbers outside the square root sign and multiply them. So the numbers outside the square root sign are, yes, 4 and 3. So we multiply them. So we are going to have 4 multiplied by 3. Then again, you remember that we said square root of 2 and square root of 3. Whether they are the same or not, we still can multiply them. So we are going to actually multiply them. So square root of 2, square root of 2 multiplied by square root of 3. So that is what we have. And what would our answer be? So our answer for 4 multiplied by 3 is going to be 12. Then our answer for 2 multiplied by 3 is going to be 6. So students, that is how to solve sets involving multiplication. We learned that there are 2 major ways in doing so. The first step is to isolate the numbers in front of the square root sign and multiply them. Then again, the numbers under the square root sign, are we to keep 1 like in addition and subtraction of sets? No, we multiply them whether they are the same or not. So if you are able to follow the instructions here carefully, you will be able to solve sets involving multiplications. If you follow the steps just like we've said, you actually, and you practice, you'd actually be perfect at this. As always, I earnestly wish to see you in the next class. So, bye for now.